we have 4 simple rules. Number 1, we don't discuss politics, ever. Number 2, this is not a religious channel, and while you might hear people say, God bless you, or I'm going to pray for you, or I wouldn't have gotten through this without my faith, that's fine. What's not fine is to say, my God is better than your God, or here's why you're not getting into heaven. It's not going to fly. Number 3, we believe wholeheartedly if you can't control your tongue, then you can't control your life. So while on board, there's not going to be any cursing in the live chat, period. And number 4, there is no room for mean people on the lifeboat. Because we discuss very sensitive things from people's past in our group setting, we got to protect those people. The only way they feel confident and comfortable discussing those things is in an environment that is free of trolls and mean people. So if you're a mean person or you're a troll, we're going to block you for life. And if your account happens to be less than 24 hours old, we're probably a little suspicious right from the word go. Why? Well, because there are people in this world who enjoy being cruel solely for the sake of being cruel. It's not going to fly here. But if you're here because you're trying to get sober and live your best life, then you might find that the lifeboat is just that, a lifeboat. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and we will see you on deck. Good morning, lifeboat. I'm Tommy, and it is Saturday morning. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. It is so cold outside today. You cannot believe it. You know, it felt like spring for a couple of days. And then this. I'm very much looking forward to warmer weather, but I'm glad that you were all here today. So, excuse me. Get some heartburn this morning. I played with this thumbnail longer than I have played with any thumbnail in a long time. Thanks, squirrel. Yeah, I know. See, the cat is on a slightly different schedule than the rest of us. So this early morning thing, she's still being a whack job. I'm giving her room to jump in the basket. I gotta move the coffee cup. So I played with this thumbnail longer than I've played with a lot of thumbnails before. And there were a lot of things that I considered. Here you go. Bite my finger. That's good. I played with a lot of different thumbnails before I settled on this one. I got probably more great comments on the live that I did from my car after getting robbed, and I've had a lot of time to talk to people and to think about exactly how I would deal with Mark. It was a great question. Somebody asked me that if you were given the opportunity to sentence Mark, what would you sentence him to? Which I thought was one of the great questions that anyone has ever asked me. And I got some comments from people that said, you know what, the guy deserves 25 years. And I would not give him 25 years. The more I thought about this, the more that I've come to realize that if you're going to get right, it's not going to be because you got 25 years. It's going to be because you got right. Had I been let out earlier than the time that I had, it would not have affected me. The last, I don't know how many years I did in there, I may have helped other people, and that's good. But as far as me getting better in my own head, that extra time didn't do a tremendous amount for me. And I don't know that it would do a tremendous amount for Mark. So if I were judge, jury, and executioner, there you go. Get in the basket. Come on, get in the basket. There. Oh, wow, that basket almost slid off the edge. I would give him 5 years. And I would give him 5 years because if he's going to get right in there, it's going to happen in that 5-year period. That's my opinion. I don't get the opportunity to give him that time. Sadly, he has a second burglary, according to the police. He's going to get 25, and he might get more than that. And that has been weighing on my head quite a bit lately. And not because I'm an incredibly good person or any of that, but because I've spent time incarcerated, and I don't think that the way we do it in this country spends a lot of time trying to help people actually become somebody else. We've got the punishment part down. We don't have the rehabilitation part down. And truthfully, what the cat needs is rehabilitation. And if I am given an opportunity to go and talk at his sentencing, I think that that's probably what I will do. I think I will plead for leniency. I would like to get him. I would like to have an opportunity to work with him. Mark wasn't stealing from me to pay the rent, and he was not stealing from me to live a better life. He was stealing from me to put a needle in his arm or a straw up his nose. And this kind of thing gets you thinking. And then on top of all of this, while all of this is going on, I get some hate mail, which I told you about yesterday. And it has occurred to me that serenity boundaries may be the most important thing in life. If you're going to remain sober, you have to be able to set boundaries for when things start to work their way into your when things start to encroach on your serenity, then they start to encroach on your sobriety. Because, and to me, and this is me, but to me, serenity and sobriety are really close. They're tied together, and very often the things that threaten my serenity are threatening my sobriety. So I have had to start learning how to set serenity boundaries. When you do these shows as often as I do them, the lifeboat encroaches on my normal life. You when you do 2 hours of live broadcasting a day, obviously that breaks up, what you do and the preparation for it. Even if some show preps I take a long time for, and some show preps I don't. Just being honest, that's kind of the way that works. And regardless, they take a minute, even if they're not shows that I spend a lot of time. If it's going to be one of those extemporaneous things where I just come on and talk, there is still a period of time that goes into it. So 2 hours of live feed takes 3.5 hours, maybe 4 hours to prepare. One of the things that really got me yesterday was I was accused of having a core group of people who are my favorites, and they're the only people that I work with. And that kicked me in the crotch, because I'll be really honest with you. There are a great number of people who are in my core group of people who I care for that I don't talk to ever. There are people on this boat whose voices I've never heard. Doesn't mean that I don't correspond with them every day, but I've never heard their voices. So in terms of taking phone calls, so I went back and I started looking through things, and I can look at how much time I've spent on phones with people. I can look at how many phone calls I took. So last week, I spoke with 31 people on the telephone from the lifeboat. 31 people that I reached out to who decided that they would like to talk to me. And maybe it's really 30 because I counted the twins as 2 people, and I thought that might have been fair because I really talked to the parents as well, so that would be 4 people. But anyway, I talked to 31 people, and I find myself really tripping over the Leslie. Good to see you, brother. I find myself tripping over the comments that this person made, and what it really comes down to is this is encroaching on my serenity in a really big way. So I think that this serenity boundaries thing is an important subject matter. keeping in mind that the most important thing in the whole world is that you stay sober. There are times where you're going to have to say, you know what? I'm not talking to this person anymore. I'm not going to interact with this person anymore. I'm not going to email with this person anymore. This person is out of my life. And that may sound really cold-hearted, but I can't stress enough that the most important part of everything that we do is remaining sober. The rest is window dressing. Yeah, it'll be a whole lot better if you can get your stuff together and start making a good living and being able to live where you want and drive a car that you want and all of that. But that stuff is window dressing. The important thing is that you remain sober. Now, for me, to remain sober means that I'm going to have a relationship with a higher power. It's not one I jam down anyone's throat, but for me, it is really important that I have a relationship with a higher power. And my higher power would encourage me to not push people out of to not create distance between me and people who may need help. And that becomes a conflict because I could continue to debate with this person, and it's maybe sometimes that's important. Maybe sometimes it's important that you continue to debate with somebody because it's going to help them with their growth, and maybe in the process you'll grow as well. So I spent a lot of time thinking about this one situation, and it started to really just take all of my time. And last night at 1 o'clock in the morning, I went to bed really early last night because I'm trying to get sleep. And at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm laying in bed, and all I can do is think, am I really only talking to a handful of people? So I got up and I started going through and looking at things, how much time I've spent on the phone with certain people. And logic has got to be a part of what we do. For me, logic is an important part of what we do. So I started to take apart logically the things that this individual had said to me. And you know what? They're not logical. They're not. This is not a person I've ignored. This is a person I've spent over 4 hours on the telephone with. And for that reason, in fact, outside of Lady Crispin and maybe Calhoun, there's nobody on the boat that I have spent more time on the phone with. So I realized that this person is in a tough place, and I'm going to pray for this person. I really am, but I'm not going to talk to them. And the person also made a lot of comments concerning the boat not being mine. I get that. I get that the boat belongs to other people. And I get that if I come on here and I rail against YouTube, that I may be threatening YouTube and the lifeboat and their relationship together. However, I also have to come on here every day and go like this. See that one? I got to bite my lip every day. I have to say things like the beast from the east. I have to say Fen. I can't talk about C+ math. I can't do any of those things. That may seem like I'm protecting the boat. What it does is threaten my serenity. It really does. Because hypocrisy for the purpose of getting a click is something that I'm really uncomfortable with. And it's the reason that I set up the Lifeboat Raw over on Rumble. I can go over there and I can say what I want to say. But for that reason, it means that I have to bite my lip over here on this platform, which I am willing to do to protect the lifeboat. Have I slipped? Yep, I have. I think I've slipped twice. And the accusation was that I told the big red button to go F itself. I'm not exactly sure that's how it went down, but they can go F themselves as far as I'm concerned. Free speech is a huge thing to me, and maybe it's not to everybody else. Maybe that's not such a big deal as long as we have a place to come and gather. I assure you that if the big red button pulled the plug, I would find a way to reach out to every single person that I could and let them know where we were going. And I'm going to do what I can to not have the big red button pull the plug. But my serenity is really kind of key to this whole thing, because as much as it's your boat, It's my boat. I mean, I started this channel and I'm the one that has to come up with thumbnails and come on here and do an hour to whack. And I'm not talking to most of you. I think I'm talking to myself, but this is what I do, right? I work through quite a bit of what I've got going on that, is important. It was an absolute must for me too, Captain. Honestly, I've seen people come into rehab that don't have belief in any power, period. I don't know how they made the journey at all. I couldn't have. Tommy, I don't understand it either. Truthfully, I don't. But some of them do. There are people who make it, and God bless them, or whatever bless them, whatever makes them happy. I can't. And for me, it was pretty cut and dry because, and I'll explain this because I think it's important. It's the reason that the higher power thing was important to me was because I made Tommy Scoville God. I answered to no one. I was my own authority on everything. And for decades, I became my own God. And I saw how well that worked. And when I came to the realization, and I knew better than that, I knew, that this is probably something that bears repeating, but I knew what my beliefs were prior to becoming a drug addict. I just left them. And they were always in the back of my head. I didn't stop talking to God, except the prayers ended up being things along the lines of, man, God, if I can get away with this one, if this bank, if I don't get caught on this bank, it's going to be the last bank I do, like that kind of crazy prayer. But God was always in the back of my mind. What I have found is that when God is in the back of my mind, then Tommy Scoville is in the front of my mind. And when I make myself more important than my higher power, then there's no lifeboat. In fact, there's no freedom. There's no car, there's no cat, there's no house. There's a very small walk-in closet with a toilet, a roommate, and a bar, and a bunch of bars, right? Or a door that locks that I have no control over. So setting boundaries in serenity. If something threatens your serenity, get rid of it. Get rid of it. You can do it kindly. You can say to somebody, you know what? I love you. I really do. I love you. And I've tried to demonstrate that I love you. But at the moment, you don't think I care. And that is something that is weighing on my serenity to the point that I feel like my sobriety is in danger. For that reason, you're gone. The person said, let me make some suggestions, and told me all of the things that I shouldn't be doing on the lifeboat. And I responded back and said, let me make a suggestion. Leave. Maybe that sounds really cold-hearted, but this isn't for you anymore. If what you see when you show up here is a person that has 3 people that he talks to and doesn't care about anyone else, then you've missed the boat. I talk to people on a daily basis who don't like me. I would happily go talk to Mark. If I had an opportunity to go talk to Mark, and I thought about this a lot in the last day and a half, Mark's going to get caught. He lives in a small town. Reno's a small town. He lives in a smaller town. The town that he lives in is teeny. They're going to catch him. The facial recognition software in our country, believe it or not, the place that it is the most highly developed is casinos. They want to make sure that people don't rip them off, so that their facial recognition software is incredible. You walk in the door and you are someone who has counted cards before. You're done. They're going to catch you instantly and they're going to escort you out the door. Well, he's now plugged into every single casino in the city. He's going to get spun out. He's going to go to a casino to gamble and he's going to get arrested. It's coming, and it's coming quickly. I mean, even the officer said to me, I would be surprised if we don't have him within the week. He's going to be in for a shock because I'm going to go and visit him in Parr Boulevard County Jail when he's in there. I'm going to go. I doubt I'd be able to film it on my phone, but I'd love to try. I think that they would probably. It's not a one-on-one. You do it through a computer screen, much like I'm doing it right now. But I would like to go and meet with the guy, and I would just like to say to him, "I've been there. I've been there." He would become somebody else on a list of people that don't like me a whole lot, I'm sure, but that I'm willing to work with. Sobriety to me means more than just about everything in this world. For real. It has been proposed in the past that I do what I do because I'm a narcissist, or I do what I do because I'm an egomaniac. And you know what? Blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Analysis from people who aren't good at it is just historically funny. And if you believe that that's true, and you know what? Let's take it a step farther. Let's say it is true. Let's say that I come on here to scratch some itch that has something to do with narcissism. There are some people hearing a message that is helping them. Truthfully, I do this because I need it. I do this because this is a part of my sobriety. This is my video journaling. This is my ability to come here and work through things. I had to pull the car over the other day and turn on the live feed from my telephone because I just couldn't get through what had just happened to me without having the opportunity to talk about it. And there are people on this boat who I email back and forth with who are very much a part of my serenity. We have conversations that keep me in the game. And then there are people who have decided that I'm a piece of crap. And the list of people who hate me is far longer than the list of people that love me. Fortunately, I've blocked most of them. When somebody decides that they hate me and 2 weeks ago they loved me, those are the ones that kind of hurt. And I tend not to block them. Sorry. Thanks, Tommy. You know, you're not the only person that has said that. This is, I think that as crazy as it is, I kind of needed to get robbed. I get really removed from the person that I was. It becomes very easy to think of yourself as Captain Tommy Scoville and not the bank robber. It's one of the reasons that I continue to beat the drum about my past again and again and again and own it. And it's one of the reasons that I preach owning it as much as I do, because when you begin to start believing all of the press, I'm a very lucky person, and I'm blessed as hell that I'm where I am today. But it is very easy to forget sometimes where you come from. And one of the beautiful things about what happened with Mark is that you're not a narcissist. I'm well schooled in that. Much love, Tommy. Thank you, Cheryl. Sadly, I think a lot of women are well versed in narcissism. Men seem to possess that affliction far more than women do. So I think most women have a handle on narcissism, but it's easy to forget where you come from, and it's easy to forget who you are, especially if you pat yourself on the back every day for getting up early and doing shows. And as much as I try not to, I absolutely can spend a decent amount of time patting myself on the back, and this one was good for a reality check on that. Tommy Bird says, but nobody deserves to be desperate enough to become that robber either. I agree with you, man. I agree with you, Tommy. And I think that is the part that really got me. You know, that's the part that really got me, is that the desperation. I spent a lot of my life as a criminal. My drug use caused me to be a criminal. And it was as big a defining characteristic of me as the drugs was. I was just as much a criminal as a drug addict. And that was something that went on for a long time. And I started to think about Mark in terms of just a criminal instead of a drug addict. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, I started to do the analyzing thing, and it was 1:30 in the afternoon. He was less than 100 yards from Main Street. If you're standing in that parking lot waiting for somebody to come out with cash, unless you are just, I mean, the most clueless of all criminals, you're going to go like this, right? You're going to look around. You're going to look for your exit routes because this guy didn't have a vehicle. So you're looking for your exit routes. You're looking for how you're going to get out of there, where you're going to hide, and there's no way you don't see the cameras. There's no way he didn't realize that he was going to be robbing me on film. The desperation that takes is horrifying. It is so sad. And I sat and I remembered what it felt like to get away with it. To know that you got the money in your hands and there's that peace that you get. It's an overwhelming sense as you're holding that fistful of cash that I'm not going to be sick for X number of days. Like tomorrow morning when I wake up, I don't need to start stealing. And throw in the watch. I'm sure that the watch went right to a dealer. It's probably on a drug dealer's wrist. But I probably either, it was funny. I was talking to my brother about this, and my brother had been there for many of my years of being a criminal, and he said, "Be honest. That desperation might not have just been sick. That desperation may have been, I don't just have to come up with money to get high. I have to come up with money to pay the dope man just to get to even. And then I've got to come up with money to get high." And that happens quite often. So I would imagine that my watch might have broken him even. And then the money started to pay for dope. And where I live, once somebody gets spun or doped up or whatever, gambling becomes the next. They almost go hand in hand. It's a lifestyle thing because you can gamble at 7-Eleven. You can gamble at the grocery store. You can gamble anywhere but church. They've got machines. Hey, Rick, good to see you. So there's a really good chance that after Mark got high, he probably looked for a place to gamble, knowing if he's any kind of criminal that he couldn't go to a casino. And I would say that he knows that because I have not gotten the phone call that he's been arrested. And I'm anticipating it any day. Honestly, a part of me was shocked I didn't get it yesterday. The really sad thing about Mark, and whether you believe it or not, I'm praying for him because it escalates. You rob a bank and you say, "This is going to get me good and I'm never going to do this again." And then you rob another bank. And then a day comes where you rob two of them in one day. And that kind of desperation, that kind of snowballing effect, it's the same thing in crime that it is in drug use itself. We find ourselves gaining momentum and really sort of getting out of control. And my fear is that 45 has got bullets in it. That may sound very silly, but if you knew the number of people that I know who have gone to prison and the gun never had a bullet in it. There are people out there that want the terror that a gun makes somebody feel, but they don't want to kill anybody, and that may sound silly. It really might, but the number of people I knew who were in federal prison who robbed banks with BB guns because they didn't want the potential to actually shoot somebody. I would say that more banks get robbed with BB guns than real guns. That's my experience having been in federal prison where every bank robber who gets caught ends up. The vast majority of people either use a BB gun or they use a gun that's not loaded. But my fear is that Mark has the opportunity to kill somebody. That if that gun is loaded and he's loaded, that he stands a chance of killing somebody. And I pray that he ends up incarcerated before he does that, not just for the person that he's going to kill, which is just obvious and should slap you in the face, but for Mark. In in the state that I live in, if they give him 25 years, and I promise you, people, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to beg the judge to give him less time than that. But if he gets 25 years, he's probably going to have to do 10 of it at a minimum. If they stack them, right, they have the ability to stack the crimes, or they have the ability to run them concurrent. In the parlance of convicts, it's either stacking or running wild is the term they use, right? And if you get, 225s running wild, then he's going to have to give him 20 years minimum before he can get out of prison. When he hits the first 10-year mark, he'll automatically get parole, and they'll parole him to the next sentence, if that makes sense. So there's no reason for them to turn down the parole, because he's not leaving anyway. So you get your automatic parole at 10 years, and they parole you to the next sentence. And then he will owe 10 more. And I don't, this is not a guy that needs to do 20 years. Before they realized it was Mark and they were asking me to give a description of the guy, I said, and believe it or not, people, I started trying to get, once I realized that I wasn't going to get shot, that this guy was just going to take my money, I started looking at him. I started looking at his hair. I started looking at his teeth. I started looking at his face. I started looking at anything that I could do to describe him. And he's 5'6", 5'7", maybe 145 pounds, right? So he didn't look particularly healthy. And when the cop said, "How old do you think he is?" The terrifying thing, and this is something that drug use will do, I was thinking to myself, he could be 30 or he could be 50, because you just don't know. And I didn't, I think if you sit and ask a police officer every single detail you can possibly get on the person that robbed you, they think that you want to kill them. That you're looking to hunt them down. I don't know how old Mark is. I'm going to stick with the same gut. It could have been anywhere from 30 to 50. I would say that most definitely he stole that gun immediately before that robbery, or possibly the dope man loaned it to him simply for the task of Mark paying his debts with it. I would be willing to bet you the farm that he stole that gun. That would be a very logical thing. And the reason for that is it is the easiest traded commodity in the world for dope is a gun. The people that sell drugs love guns. They will absolutely pay you, and they will pay you usually a pile of dope for a gun. It's one of those things that if you're able to come up with a gun, drug dealers love guns. And the reason they love guns is because more often than not, and I'll catch some hell for this, right? But more often than not, they're buying these drugs from illegals, and they call it the Iron River. So drugs come up into the United States. Guns go down south into Mexico, because guns are difficult to procure inside Mexico. Any gun that you get into Mexico is worth a fortune. And you talk about an easy smuggling operation. Like if you've ever driven across Tijuana's border, or any of the others, Tijuana being the one that really gets your attention, they're 6 or 7 lanes wide. And you pick a lane, and as you go through, you have a green or a red light. And I swear to you with my hand up, every time I have ever driven into to TJ, and I've done it a lot, and every time I've ever driven into Nuevo Laredo, or I've driven into Nogales, or any of the border crossings that I've gone into to go to Mexico, once they have stopped my car on the way in. Once. Every other time, I just got the green light, and you just drive straight into the country. For all they know, you've got an atomic bomb. But their feeling is that there aren't too many people smuggling dope into Mexico. And truthfully, I don't think they're too worried about the guns or anything else. I think it's just part of business. Just there conducting business. We need to be situationally aware when we go out. It can happen to anyone, anytime. I'll be really honest. I was not even remotely intelligent in how I did what I did. I had money in my hands, and I was counting it. I don't think it would have mattered if it was in my pocket because Mark knew where I was coming from. He was posted up behind the gold exchange because he knew I had been in there selling gold. There's no question about that. That being said, I was not even remotely situationally aware. However, part of me is glad that I wasn't. Maybe sound really stupid, but I can't carry a gun. Right? There's rules against that because I'm a convicted felon. I do, however, carry a banger. Right? I carry a blade that is just legal. It is within a quarter of an inch of what I can legally carry. And you know what? If I had had plenty of time to think about it and I had seen it coming, I might have done something stupid. Testosterone might have gotten the better of me, and I'm pretty damn happy that that I didn't try to fight this guy. And I didn't say this the other day, but it was a 1911A, right? A Colt 1911A, which is a very unusual weapon. It is an unusual weapon in that it is a single action automatic. So you have to pull the hammer back the first time in order to fire this gun. When you fire it, the gas from the exploding shell slides the slide back. And when the slide comes forward, it catches another bullet, pulls it into place, and the hammer remains cocked. For this reason, if you push that slide backwards, it actually takes the hammer out of play. If that makes sense. In other words, if you're standing within 2 inches of me and I can get my hand on the top of that slide, you can't fire it. And this is one of those stupid things that we used to play with all the time when we were wasted. If anybody had a 45, I'd say, take that thing out. You want to see something crazy? And obviously I wouldn't do it while they were had a bullet in it. But I would say you were trying to get me. And I've done this routine so many times that for a split second, I thought, I could render that gun useless. Like if you get your hand on that slide and you put any pressure back on it at all, it can't be fired. Wasn't something I was ready to play with. The other thing about a 45 is it's got a great big hole in the end of it, and it's one of those things that, unlike like the 357 Magnum is another one, but there are just certain guns that the 44 Magnum is like probably the king of them. But you look down or the Casull, the 454 Casull, but you look down the barrel and you can see in it, right? You can almost see the rifling. It is a very, very large caliber gun, and it got my attention. It could have been worse. It really could have been worse. There's no question. And you know what? It's money. And I mean, the watch is kind of sad because it was a very, very rare watch, but the money can be replaced. And there was a time in my life where I didn't think that way. There was a time in my life where I thought that once money was gone, that was it. Now I had to go steal something. I have ways to make money these days. Mostly here, if someone has a gun, they're just hunting supper. Monk, that's what Mark was doing too. Except his supper was going to go into his arm. But I assure you, he was hunting for sustenance, just like the people there are, sadly. So I squirreled off there a little bit. The real crux of today is that you have to be willing. You have to be willing to cut people out of your life. You have to be willing to cut situations out of your life. You have to be willing to cut anything out of your life that begins to threaten your serenity. Because if your serenity gets threatened, so does your sobriety. So you have to get to a point where you set boundaries. And I am not in the dating world, right? This is not something that I have to worry about. If, however, you are dating and you have somebody that says things or does things, guys are horrendous about this. We are manipulative people by birth. It's just one of those things that, for the most part, guys learn very early. And they say things sometimes that are cruel, subconsciously or consciously, to manipulate situations to get what they want out of somebody. If somebody is saying something that hurts you, and that hurting is threatening your serenity, get rid of them. Doesn't have to be a permanent thing, right? Maybe there's a day down the road where you two will be friends again. But You have to be in a position where you can say, you know what, not going to happen. Oh, I definitely was a target. This man was, V says I was a target. This man posted up behind the gold exchange. He knew where he was parked. That was the parking lot of the gold exchange. Anybody that was in that parking lot was there to sell gold. And like I said, he probably, with the exception of the watch, he didn't pick the right guy. I was selling I don't own coins. I don't own bullion. Like there were people going in there selling gold bars. But he also, the guy may be really smart. He may have thought, anybody selling bars is probably going to get a check. Because you go in there and you start selling gold by the pound, you're probably not walking out with 50K. You're walking out with, he probably targeted me and was pretty smart about it. He probably looked at the car. I wasn't driving the Porsche. I had the Prius. And he probably thought, this is the guy that's getting rid of a couple of grand or whatever. Anyway, you shake it. If you're that person and you've got a big heart, man, say a prayer for Mark. Because that desperation is a shit feeling. I'm sorry, pardon my language, but that desperation is such an awful feeling, and it's fleeting. So you break the law, and all of a sudden you have the cash, and there's just a really small window, and that small window says, "Oh man, I'm good." And that window closes instantly, and you're back to where am I going to do the next one? And criminals are creatures of habit. They will do the same stupid thing again and again and again. And my gut says that they're probably going to catch him in that parking lot. It worked. Chances are he'll go back and try it again. Sorry. Yeah, you know what? Here's the thing. It is really easy to get into a massive debate about the Second Amendment, and there are people that really, really argue. So I'm going to say something on the Second Amendment, and then I'm never going to say something on the Second Amendment again, not on this platform. I will say it on the other platform, but I'm not going to say it on this platform. And the reason that the Second Amendment is so damn important is because all of the other ones are protected by it. If you read the Second Amendment, it says that you're there to protect from tyranny. Tyranny doesn't come from Mark in a parking lot trying to rob gold from me. Tyranny comes from your government. The reason that we were supposed to have these guns is to make sure that a government could never run roughshod over us like the previous government did. And people seem to lose track of that. And you know what? Before anybody starts going, I'm a nut guy, I don't own a gun. I can't own a gun. I am solid enough in the law that I do not own a gun, because by law I am restricted from ever owning a gun again. I am a convicted felon, and I'm convicted of bank robbery, which, by the way, I never used a gun for. But I'm also convicted of buying and selling guns illegally, selling them to people that shouldn't have had them. And you know what? I shouldn't be allowed. I get that. I don't argue that. It is what it is. Women are just as manipulative as men, my guy. Well, there's your opinion, Buddha. But statistically, you may find that that doesn't bear out. It is your opinion, and you are absolutely entitled to it. But there are about 40 studies and books that you can read on that. Women are absolutely manipulative, and they can be more manipulative. Percentage-wise, it is a smaller group than men who pretty much do it across the board. That's all I was saying. And not looking for a huge debate on that, I promise you. But I'd be happy to send you a really cool book you can read on it. Tommy Bird, depending on what you on what has full of hope, I believe that, and I love you. I mean that. And I get that, Tommy Bird. The good news is this: depending on what I don't know about where you live, but after 7 years, I know people who have restored their gun rights. If what you got, like I had a friend that got a DWI, and it was a felony DWI, and he lost his rights to ever own a gun again. He hired an attorney. He went back to court. He got his gun rights reinstated. It is possible. It happens every day in this country. It will not happen to me because of what I did. I would require a pardon from the President of the United States, I think, or at least a governor to ever get those rights back. And no, I take that back. It wouldn't be a governor. It would have to be the president because I am a federal inmate. So the odds of that, pretty slim. Although I wouldn't rule it out, but it's slim. So as far as boundaries go, a lot of us have to deal with people in our lives that there's no getting around. You may have an ex that has a great deal to do with you visiting your children. Those are issues. You can set Serenity guidelines and Serenity boundaries that just say, I'm not engaging. Now, I have to deal with my ex-wife. Fortunately, I don't have to deal with her very often because, my children are to an age, like Calhoun is a non-issue and Cedar is almost a non-issue, but I still have to deal with my ex. I choose to deal with my ex on a really limited basis. And if my ex begins to raise her voice, or if my ex starts to say things that are unkind, I say, you know what? We're not doing this today. Have a great day, though. I'll talk to you later. I'm not allowing anybody to infringe. I'm not allowing anybody to push into that part of my life that threatens my serenity. I'm sorry, hold on. What I would recommend, Tommy, is that you contact an attorney. Look for an attorney who lists that what they do as post-conviction work only. Lawyers who work post-conviction work only are the people who deal with that particular kind of they deal with that kind of work, and it is possible. You hear so many things that just get spit out, and then they get regurgitated, and then they get regurgitated. If you knew how many times somebody tells me I can't have a passport because I'm a felon, the next time we film, I'll show you my passport, which, by the way, I got in the last year. I'm still on federal probation, and I got a passport. You can have a passport as a felon. You can leave the country if you're a convicted felon. What it boils down to is what countries will allow you to go there. There are countries that will not. Australia is a big one. Germany is a big one. Canada is a big one. Although most of them will throw that out the window once money becomes involved. I worked in Canada as a convicted felon. I had an office in Canada as a convicted felon. I was paying taxes in Canada, which made me very, very popular, and they were quite happy to allow me to have an office in their country. Yes, I vote. I have voted in every single election of my life, and I've been a felon since I was 16. You can vote. There are restrictions to when you can and can't. You just have to do the research. Felons can vote. Felons can't vote while they're on paper, but you absolutely can. You know what? Full of hope. If Ireland would have me, I would be coming to Ireland. My ability to travel is probably 30 to 60 days away, and I will happily come to Ireland. I love Ireland, and I will happily come and see you. I would like to sit in a kitchen and drink coffee with Full of Hope and watch the sun come up. I think that I've met very few people that I would like to have a very long conversation with more than Full of Hope. Not taking away from anybody else, but just being honest. There are very few people I've ever met that I would like to have more of a very long conversation with than Full of Hope. So it may happen. I'm waiting. I am The lawyers are doing their thing right now to terminate the remainder of my time. Well, you know that, but soon my debt to society will be officially paid. I was told I cannot vote as a convicted felon on probation, which I no longer am. Praise God. You can vote, Tommy Bird. You absolutely can vote. And if you need me to send you paperwork on that, I can. Charlie Mullins, the family of a 29-year-old young lady that I picked up due to overdose yesterday, could use some thoughts, prayers, and good vibes. People, did you hear that? When Charlie said that he picked that woman up, that means that it was over. Charlie picked up the body of a woman who overdosed. Thoughts and prayers for that family, please. Thoughts and prayers for that family, please. M. Hunt, I don't blame you for wanting to move. I would do a lot of research before you move north. North has done some really amazing things of late, including making guns illegal. And it has been my, I am a big history buff. And as a rule of thumb, when a country makes guns illegal, bad crap's about to happen. When they eliminate guns from the owners of when they take away ownership of guns, really squirrely things can happen because there is nobody to protect from tyranny anymore. And they've just done some screwy things. Canada is becoming a third world country, sadly. But I'm all for finding a new place to live. I might go check out Ireland, see if Full of Hope's got a spare bedroom. So I'm absolutely not enthralled with my country at the moment. I was talking about Montana. I thought you meant you were going north. I got you. I got you. I thought you meant Canada. That's really funny. Montana's not such a bad call. Big sky. I like Montana. I've had a lot of fun there. She got 3 spare rooms. Do you happen to have one with a green wall? I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter where I live anymore. As long as there's a green wall behind me, I can pretend to be wherever I want to be. Squirrel, what are you doing? Squirrel is angry at me. She's sitting in the basket, sitting upright with her back to me, and she won't turn around no matter how much I call her name. Come on, what's going on with you? You're not in a very good mood. So, Serenity, boundaries, people. No guilt. You understand? Feel no guilt. Yeah, Tommy Bird, I agree. 7th, I already called dibs. What the hell's wrong with you? You can't say dibs after I already say it. What are you, new at this? See, you haven't played in a long time because that's usually a kid's thing with the whole dibs. But 7th son is calling dibs on Full of Hope's spare bedrooms when I already have. I think that I started that. Yeah, thank you, V. Please. Cat's just completely out of control. 3 rooms. You make a good point. But I'm sleeping in one. I've got to set up the camera in the other, and I'm bringing Squirrel. You really want Squirrel to have her own room. She's hard to deal with these days. Come to Scotland. We can hunt haggis. I probably have told this story on here before, but so years ago in my previous life, I was a theater major and actually was in a motion picture or two. Had speaking roles in motion pictures. And sometimes you get giggling. And it's something that happens. That's why you see blooper reels where somebody just can't say a word. You get something in your head and you cannot stop laughing. Well, I worked with a director called George Roy Hill, and he directed. He's in the he's in the Directors Hall of Fame, and he's got his hands on the Walk of Fame in Hollywood. He did Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. He did The Sting. He did a lot of really good movies. George Roy Hill was an excellent director and a raging alcoholic. I met him at 7 o'clock in the morning, and he was already working on a highball. But when we would start laughing and we couldn't get back under control, he would say, the way you stop that from happening is you say haggis, and you say it like you're cursing, and you say it really loud. And the first time he said that, I thought he was absolutely crazy. Hold on one second. Hopetographer, thank you very much. You know what? I feel really badly for the person that said what they said to me, because I know that it was coming from a place of pain, and I just feel like it was aimed at the wrong person maybe, and it really kind of bums me out. So you start laughing and you'd go, haggis! And it was funny because it literally would bring the entire crew back into sort of having their stuff pulled together. And I did an infomercial, and I'm sure that it has been pulled up by my enemies and posted all over the internet. But I did an infomercial years ago, and somewhere I have the outtakes of the infomercial, and it was filmed by me and a guy named Dave, that is one of my favorite people and a very funny guy. And he was the host, and the two of us filmed together. And if you watch it, you can see that we had to cut it like every 2 seconds because we were laughing hysterically. And if you watch the outtakes, you hear the word haggis. I exaggerate not 1,000 times, because it's just, we couldn't get it under control, and everyone was going, haggis, haggis, haggis. You would have gotten a, hey, Luke Skywalker, glad you're here, bud. I was over watching Luke Skywalker's videos the other day. The guy's a talented guitarist. I'm telling you, we could put together a band here at the Lifeboat. We really could. We got a bass player. We got a guitarist. We've got a host that can't sing but thinks he can, and that's always a good thing. Sorry, people. That has become a not to get too graphic, but it has become an absolute important part of my morning routine. Coffee and nicotine. Without it, sadly, I am not able to get my trip to the bathroom done. So I'm prepping. What are we looking at? Are we looking at something that's not there? Lay down, please. I hate picking up the cat when the cat is in the basket, but sitting up, because it's very hard to balance her. She's kind of a top-heavy kitty. That's right. Lay down, lay down, lay down. All right. People, you know what time it is? It's time for a feline in a basket. Don't look at me like that. You ready? No? You want to just come to me and you don't have to do it in a basket? Come here. Come on. All right, then we'll do it in the basket. Balance, balance. All righty, everybody. This. Oh, you're a cute kitty. This is a cat in a basket. An evil, rotten feline in a basket who's now biting my computer. So we're going to put her back over here. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and this. You want to bite my thumb? Ow. And that, ow, is a cat in a basket. I will see you people this evening. Set boundaries, people. Yeah, the sunrise is coming up right now. It is coming up right now. So I want to thank you to everybody for getting up early and listening to me. It's a very important part of my life. Much love to all of you. Squirrely nut. Yep, squirrel nut zipper. That's my girl. Now she lays down. You're really a pisser. He's a good kitty. Now she's looking so cute. Oh, you're a good girl. Don't bite me. All right, people. I will be back to tonight. Be about 11 hours from now. I was going to say 12, but Seven Son would have he would have fixed that because he's hey, Monk, we love you too. And to all of you people that run the big red button, you see I've been accused of risking the lifeboat because of the things that I say to the big red button, and that is really irresponsible, and it's not my boat. So to everyone who runs the big red button, you people, you're fair. I don't believe you have an algorithm that puts nice stuff like this in the basket, in spite of the fact that on the other channel, I get more views with 48 people than I do over here with for 3,800. You're good people, and I don't hate you. See you in 11 hours, people. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This was the Lifeboat. Make it a great day. You hear me? That's an order. Make it a great day. All right, Squirrel, let's do this.